Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of the Divisionary Podcast, starring myself, Wolf of Cherno, and my guest hosts, as always, Splinter Shield, Keelan562, and DB the Division. Today we got a big episode for you guys, but starting off, one of our co-hosts here has something to go over first of all, and we're just going to get that out of the way first, just to show some respect, alright? Take it away, guys.
Thank you. So this month within the Division community, we saw the trend of the hashtag Salute Stefania come about. For those who may not know, this involved a tribute to a player who unfortunately passed away last year. And there's a bit more to the story. It's a tragic story. Dave and I learned through a mutual acquaintance, Elena Pinthas of the Division DarkZone.it weekend, about paying tribute to Stefania by doing a moment of silence in her honor. And for those of you that are going to be joining and jumping into the chat, we'd like to request that once it's over, you guys don't chat if you can help it. If you just come in, and we'll totally understand that you didn't hear us say this. And what's going to happen is Dave is going to go into a bit more of the information that we got from Stefania. And then after he's done with that, we'll observe our moment of silence. Then we're going to go with our planned discussions. So whenever you're ready, Dave, go ahead, take it away.
Okay. Thank you to Elena and to Stefania and her sister Lucia's friend Rita, who provided us with this background. So I'll read it as follows. Stefania was born in Odessa, Texas in 1996. Her father is Italian. Stefania also knew how to speak French, German, Spanish, and was learning Polish as well. So Stefania had a twin sister, Lucia. Thanks to her sister, Ubisoft found out about Stefania, also with the help of some clans like T-Rex and Exa. Fortunately, when Stefania died, her sister, Lucia, took her place. She always said it was a way to be near her sister, to honour her in that way. Before Stefania passed away, there was a specific mural in the game. Stefania, it was really loyal to the game. There was the one mural in specific that she showed, and a different one where there is her one in, I think, West Side Piers, and also in Dark Zone, the exit of the church courtyard. So what follows is the story about how the mural came about. So Stefania was really loyal. She rarely went rogue and always helped other people in the game. She clocked over more than 1,000 hours in the game and had about roughly just over 50 rogues killed. She loved the Dark Zone. Indeed, she played there a lot and played with her own music, and everyone could hear her every time. In July of 2017, she went into Odessa with her parents in a hospital. Apparently there's some issues with cancer, and unfortunately had a hemorrhage, and as a result passed away on the 8th of July 2017. Her sister Lucia had never seen her sister's mural. Sorry, I'll go back a bit. Tragically, her sister Lucia also had the same condition, and unfortunately passed away later that year. If you imagine the awful tragedy of having one sister or a daughter pass away, imagine having twins pass away. It's hugely tragic.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, Ubisoft put in the mural, which a lot of people in the community this past week have been paying respects of Stefania, like a girl on her knees with angel wings in the background.
Because it's her birthday.
Yeah, it's also her birthday on the 24th earlier this week. Stefania apparently had a couple of nicknames in the game. First one was Hell the Queen, H-E-L, 1L the Queen, then Steffi the Queen, and at the end, Stefania, like Stefania. And yeah, so that's the story behind Stefania in the game. Now with that, the story, now we know more about that. If everyone can just hold a moment of silence with us and in chat, whether you're listening live now or listening to the recording later on, if you could hold a moment of silence with us right now, that would be great. Thank you. Everyone there?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So yeah, we were talking just before the podcast, tying in with this, how this is one of those examples about why he is so tight knit as we are, and why we appreciate the developers as much as we do, as much as they appreciate any other developer, any other company doing something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Been a name in credits at the end of the game, but nothing that's actually been before like this. So it's just goes to speak volumes about the community the fans and the developers have created together.
It is remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it tragically speaks to he has those moments of negativity that sometimes happen, and those just frustrations get the better of us and we temporarily lose our cool and everything.
Yeah.
Always remember that it's a game, it's something we all enjoy playing, it's something we all enjoy experiencing together, and to let those negative moments get the better of us like they sometimes do. We need to keep positive outlooks as much as we can. Support each other as best as we can.
Yeah.
Appreciate the work that the developers do for us. They truly do go as often as feasibly possible. They go above and beyond for us fans. And sometimes
Yeah.
they get the short end of the stick, and it's not really
It's not fair to them for all that they
yeah.
do, that they get crapped on so much.
And
Yeah.
we need to keep all that into perspective
Yeah.
a little bit more than sometimes we end up doing. Sometimes everything's but other times, again, the frustrations will. We just need to be aware of that and come back to the community that we've always of being a part of.
Exactly. We're all a family. Gotta love each other. Gotta support each other, even with our ups and downs. There's always that crazy uncle that does that crazy stuff, and then there's that one aunt that nobody talks to. But we all still love each other, so we gotta keep it up, guys.
That's right.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in and say this was something that I saw pop up, I think it was last weekend. And when I found out about the story, I don't know about you guys, but when I was growing up, like in my family, like it was a strict household, and video games were not like my dad was always telling me to get off the video games.
Mm-hmm.
And when I found out about this story, I was just like, we're a community built up around a video game, something we just, we do for fun and entertainment. But when you see something like this happen and you realize, like, yeah, but this family extends beyond the game.
Yeah.
That really just kind of touched me, a special place. And I was really happy that we were going to kind of share this on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Had mentioned before, I forget the name who brought it up in
Alrighty.
Um,
So there was the San Diego Comic Con panel with Julian, and he was talk. I know Shields that you listened to the audio for that, like the little
Yes.
podcast that somebody recorded in the audience, and we feel maybe you would have a better insight on that because I tried listening to that and it just simply
Oh
I
no.
couldn't understand
Okay, it's all
it.
up to me.
I think I
Well-
may be the only one who suffered through the whole thing.
You listened to the whole thing? All right. Well, I read the article that news.ubisoft posted as well about it, so I could have a bit of insight as well. But the first topic they wanted to talk about was world building on that panel, and if you maybe want to go into what they talked about based off of world building.
Okay. I mean, they went in a few different places. It was mostly Julian talking in
Yeah.
that one, and they were talking a lot about how. I think I have notes. They start with something recognizable in terms of location, like with New York, they looked at
Madison
as an
Square Garden.
example. Yeah, and then something that we're familiar with, they then create the situation. So it's Madison Square Garden. How would it be used in an emergency like this? And it's like, okay, this is what it would be used for. Or drive the narrative. Okay, it's used for distribution of, supplies. Well, that
And
makes
I
it
remember him saying, like, like there's historical context here. Like, in the past, actual, sports arenas have been used as distribution centers, and that was kind of fascinating me. I was like, oh, that's
and then how that in those instances makes them a target.
yeah,
Or wants to do damage, or just they've lost their minds and they're thinking about themselves, their loved ones, not the area as a whole.
Mhm.
And
yeah, like,
then
the first layer, and then when he started talking about the second layer, I was like, oh, like it really kind of opened my eyes to kind of how they had designed the world in Division 1.
and then it was first its purpose and how that purpose helps drive the narrative within that situation, and then how it evolves, how it's transformed. That happens. So yeah, if using Madison Square Garden, it's a distribution center. It becomes a target. What happens after it's ransacked? How does it look then? How is the environment laid out? Does that get incorporated into the game design? Like, is it just one of those ancillary areas that you walk past and you see it, or does it then become, okay, not only would somebody be like, okay, this has supplies, but then they're like, hey, you know what? We can hole up here.
Mhm.
Yeah,
How does the narrative constantly evolve?
Yeah, like
So-
Joker in chat just said New Orleans had the big gathering in the Superdome there when Katrina hit.
Yeah.
yes,
It's the exact thought that I had when Julian was talking about that, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember when Katrina hit,
Mm-hmm.
we're stuck in that place.
Yeah, they were stuck there for a
Right.
solid couple weeks, I think.
And a phrase that Julian repeated in terms of how that's further evolving with the design with the Division 2, is he kept using the phrase the rebirth of America.
Hmm.
Yeah,
This far down the line, and it's like things haven't gotten better yet. They're not as
No.
bad as they were during the pandemic, but they haven't gotten better yet.
It's only
but
been 7 months, so it's
Yeah,
gonna take a
it's-
long time for.
it's been that long, but then it's like how this thing.
well, consider for a moment, when the population gets decimated like this, it's not like once the virus goes away, everything kind of springs back to normal.
Hmm.
Like, it'll be a while. There'll be a lot of places they'll probably be without power for years.
Oh.
Just because they don't have the manpower to get the crews out there to, fix the wires or whatever, whatever's broken. Like, there's, with considerably less people, everything is going to have to kind of consolidate, and it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of chaos for a while
Yeah,
before everything
because
kind of settles.
law and order is non-existent, and they gotta get that working
Mhm.
again. But it's super hard to get it working again when there's nobody to do that,
Right.
except
Yeah,
for the
and he-
specific few of division agents that are trying their best.
Yeah.
that too, how one thing affects everything else. Where he was talking about the detail, the amount of research that they went in. That it wasn't just going out and taping everything. That they did interviews with people in the DC area to be like, oh, in this situation, how would you react? They wanted to get that, like,
Yeah.
this is how I would see the situation. This is what I would be doing. And one of them, they mentioned they went even as far as, okay, let's go hunting and then track. We shot a deer. How does that then get distributed into? Process does that go to end up on somebody's dinner plate later?
Exactly.
Yeah.
How that infrastructure works. That way, it's like, okay, if it breaks down here, how does that affect, like,
What happens?
yeah, and the fact that they, even though it may not come across, we don't go that in depth into the world within the gameplay, the fact that they look that microscopically, yeah, they look at the micro and
They
how it
going
affects the
deep.
macro. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a testament to how realistic they want to make the experience, how genuine they want to make the
They
experience.
want the world to feel like it's a connected place, and with all these dynamic systems working in part with each other, they can honestly make it a dynamic place. It's gonna
Yeah.
be crazy.
Yeah.
Just immersed even deeper.
They're gonna go too
Yeah.
deep at one point, and we're just gonna get sucked into the world, and we're not gonna be able to get out. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but
Already lost how many thousands?
I
of
just don't. I
hours?
don't want to know how Washington D.C. smells after all that
Oh man.
when it gets hot and everything. Oof. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Well, my
Well,
guess-
there's the question. I mean, we don't know yet, like, what they've done about all the bodies. We don't know if they just kind of dumped them all in the dark zone, or
Perhaps.
what.
And that
Okay.
kind of calls back to that little bit of a speculation that you made last time, Matt, where it was
Oh, they
in terms of the hazardous
toxic chemicals, or
like how are they
Yeah.
breaking down the bodies? And it's like, if they're doing it, it's like, yeah, that could be that's more harm than good,
Mhm.
depending on the amount that they're
Yeah.
using.
So
Yeah,
will there be
Gases
a
of decomposition.
will there be a community request to get smell-o-vision in the?
oh no.
No, thank
No,
you.
I would vote that down. I'd be like, no,
I will.
no, I
tell
don't
you right
need that
now,
experience in my life.
Yeah, I
as
don't. I
someone
don't want to know
who-
what my agent's ass sweat smells like for running in the DC for 2 hours.
oh, dude. Oh
Someone-
man.
who once had a previous job as a junk hauler.
Oh,
yeah.
During the
God.
The garbage trucks and everything were on strike, and we had to go and empty out all the dumpsters that had been there like for a week.
Oh.
I don't wish to know what DC smells like.
Probably
No.
that. Probably that. But
I've
a little worse.
I've had firsthand experience how bad it can get.
Yeah.
Just
oh man.
probably that, but a little bit worse.
Yeah. Whew.
Something else though that they mentioned that I really, me being the storyteller, the writer, that I really like that they jumped into was and when we did the master class at the Ubisoft lounge, they kind of talked into that a little bit when somebody mentioned the collectibles and the echoes, and if that was going to continue to be the form of storytelling within the world. And I really like that
Yeah.
they're keeping with that. They see the value of storytelling, that we're learning while exploring, and how it's the best way to a non-linear narrative.
Oh, there was another thing he said there at this point that I recall in the panel that that I don't know. I guess I'd probably thought about, but maybe I'd kind of just forgotten about with Division 1. But he said, like, the player becomes kind of like a detective
Yes, yeah,
trying
that we're
to
investigating.
uncover the clues. And I was like, oh, that's so true.
For
Like
real.
the way, here's the one thing that I kind of wish that they would do, but this is kind of low down on the list, so I'm not gonna make any noise about it. But the thing with how we went around and we were finding all the incident reports on laptops and all the audio logs on phones. At this point, I'm going like, it's been 7 months. Laptops and phones are going to be dead. So I hope I don't know. I just hope that they have some kind of way that we're getting those audio logs that's convincing. I hope it's not just seeing a phone and picking up like, oh, how does this phone, like, did they have like new batteries or something and came out with some kind of new batteries that can last for a year?
Yeah.
It would be one thing if to the area we find something like a handwritten report, thing.
Yeah. It would be cool.
Or continuing with echoes.
Yeah. I hope Echoes make a comeback in the best way.
I would like to see, like, I understand the still image, but I would like to see a little bit of movement to them.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's like,
that would be cool.
You hear the audio, and it's the equivalent of 5 seconds.
Well, remember the final
But
echo we had with Keener?
Yeah, and that
Remember
one.
that final where there was a progression.
Yeah.
How it went
I'd
all
like to
around.
see something kind of like that.
I think Keelan kind of means like ones that actually are kind of like a vine, but with an echo. Like you see somebody doing something like with movement and whatnot. Because the Isaac Tech will get about 7 more months of development time, kind of thing.
For example,
maybe they could upgrade it.
Terrible example, but where the family is inside the vehicle when the clingers come by.
Yeah.
If the whole time
you mean like that one person
audio,
that was hiding?
Yeah, like you listen to the audio, and as you're seeing it, like you just see the slow motion of the flame going from the flamethrower.
Yeah.
All it is that quick 3 seconds in real time, but it's stretched out over the course of the audio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Has a little bit of a visual dynamic to it more than it already has as the hologram. But I do love that.
Yeah.
I mean, other open world non-linear games like, for example, The Witcher 3.
Mm-hmm.
Game, phenomenal storytelling. They took being it, but doing more with that world. You're learning it by interacting with those random villagers and what have you. This, you're not having that interaction, so you need to help tell the story.
Yeah.
So them going this way, I still feel that it's unique. Actually, it's the appropriate way of doing non-linear storytelling. Because as you pointed out, Matt, that was mentioned in that we're figuring it out as we're walking around. And if we're a new agent again, just coming into the area, that would be exactly what we're doing.
Well, no,
we're assessing the environment.
That we're not new agents. They've said that we are going to be veteran agents coming to DC.
Or that's what I mean. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Was off that.
Just new.
We're new to the area. We're new to the DC area, coming from wherever we happen to come from. But yeah, we're coming into a new environment. We're assessing the environment as we're exploring it.
It's quite a challenging way to try and tell a narrative, because you're gonna find every player is gonna find those audio logs and those reports in different sequence.
Yeah.
So I certainly don't envy their task.
Yeah.
Trying to put all that together in a way where it doesn't matter what order you get them in. But wow. I'm glad we're still gonna have that though.
Something that's slightly off topic that I wanted to touch on real fast. With Division 1, you start off in Brooklyn and you do your basic couple missions, and then you get your way over to Midtown. With Washington, D.C., do you think there's going to be possibly like a town outside of D.C. that you're helping, and then you get the call to come into D.C., or do you think there's going to be something completely different?
I think we might start out across the river, because you see in that trailer where we're in Arlington, which and the Pentagon is like right there. I can totally see us having some sort of tutorial area across the river, and then going across the bridge or across the river somehow, and going into DC proper.
That would be cool. It'd also
I
be cool.
very
Yeah,
much.
it would be cool to have a tutorial area you could actually come back to later on and do maybe different types of missions over there that have been unlocked.
Yeah.
And it's
I
not like
love that.
Brooklyn where if you want to get cool screenshots, you got to make a whole new character.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's definitely something that seems like it would be pretty cool if you start across the river. But it also makes me think, because with the secret audio at the end of that West Side Piers thing that you get, and they're like calling all agents to DC.
Yes.
It makes you think that they might do a kind of Brooklyn thing where you're in a different town in general, and it's just like a little small block of that town or something.
That's just your initial staging area, and then it's like, all right, cool, you've checked in, you're cleared, go. They need you over here.
Yeah.
It's like you get in, they're like, all right, go get settled, and as you're on your way to report to whoever you have to report to, it's like, hey, we got some asshats that are starting to attack us. Like, get over there and help them get it under control, and that's what leads us into.
Yeah, that would be something that would be pretty cool for leading us into the new town or the whole new area.
I'm really. Here's the thing: in Division 1, like the division is a thing, and the JTF are flailing, like they're kind of almost in their death throes. It looks like, because when we land in that helicopter, they're like, yeah, there's talk if we can't get Benitez back, we're gonna pull out of Manhattan. She's like, nobody's pulling out, we're taking it back. But I mean, like, there are boots on the ground. There is some infrastructure in place. I'm wondering, with us all kind of coming to Washington, D.C., is there going to be, like, how much structure is there going to be?
I personally can't wait for different people just to see if you don't do stuff like Keelan said, to see if they'll maybe rebel against you or just don't hold off control points or something. I don't know how they're going to go off against that, but holy crap. I've seen different dynamic systems like that work in different games, like State of Decay 2, for example, but I don't know how in-depth they're going with Division 2 with that.
I mean, I can see it.
One thing more to make the world that more immersive would be all.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, the way I think they're probably going for it is it'll be like, if you give them supplies they need, then when you call them, they will come. Like to help you take control points and things.
Yes, because I've seen different.
But I hope that I just hope it goes a little deeper than that. Yeah, I agree. I hope it goes deeper.
I've seen the different UI menus for that based off demos from E3 and whatnot, and I hope they do go into a deeper aspect, because like, what happens if you don't give them those supplies?
Yeah, is it like, well, they just don't come when you need them, or is there more?
Or will they die without you?
Yeah, like if you have X amount of supplies, Y amount of support goes up.
Yes.
Like, I remember, like, with For Honor, when it first launched, I remember looking at the map and seeing how there were all these different regions that were, the different factions were kind of fighting over. Or wait, what am I thinking? I don't know, For Honor or some other game where you'd actually see, like, there were different regions and they'd be colored one way or another depending on which faction was in control, and you could go in there and try and take it over.
That is kind of like For Honor, because I know with For Honor had their whole war thing with their 3 different regions, and depending on which region had a certain map taken over, their banners and like decorations were all over the place.
Yeah, so I'm going like, okay, so might they do something like that with here, where we have like the civilians, and then we have the different factions, the bad guy faction. If you're not helping out the civilians, do they take over the settlements, and then you have to go in and kind of take them all out and push them back, bring the people back, and kind of help that settlement build up again. I don't know. I can imagine different things. I don't know what would be, like, I don't know if that would be the most fun game if you're always doing stuff like that, but I could at least see it being like a game mode.
Yeah,
I mean, it shouldn't be a feature that takes precedence over the rest of the gameplay.
Yeah,
it's one thing if it like what's another game similar? Mass Effect.
Okay.
The way you play the game alters the way the NPCs react to you.
Yeah.
thing. It just helps bring
Well, they
you
had that.
into it.
They did have that in Division One, where like as you kept building up the boo and doing the missions, the JTF guys would react differently to you, and the civilians would react differently to you.
It's like a reputation system.
Instead of screaming like "Go away," they'd be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, you're doing good work out there. We need you. Remember
Yeah.
that."
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I mean, it was a little one-dimensional, but like I feel like it could have been deeper.
Yeah,
But,
and that's what I'm thinking is it's take what they started with and just take it
One step
take it to the next
further.
level.
where it helps immerse you into the world, but it doesn't take away from
The storytelling
and the storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the typical RPG nature of the game itself,
Yeah.
while keeping
to
a
see them-
realistic feel.
I'd like to see them expand on the supply drops in the light zone. Maybe supply drops near a certain settlement. Once you've the closest settlement, a couple of NPCs come along, they pick up the stuff and take the supplies back to the closest settlement, and maybe you escort them back or something like that.
Yeah.
What else did they talk about? So that was a lot of world building. They also talked about the novel very briefly.
Yes, and we got confirmation that it's not going to be a found artifact like the New York Collapse book. It's actually going to be a novel.
Mhm.
And I have mixed feelings about that because I love the New York Collapse book, and I was kind of anticipating that the next book would be another found artifact, like some other, like something at the beginning where April's like, well, I lost my New York Collapse book.
A journal, or
but I found this other book, and so here we go again, or something. But at the same time, I liked what Alex Irvine did with the first one. I'm kind of wondering, like, well, if you're not kind of shoehorned into that method of storytelling, like what, like if he can just unfurl his wings as an author, what are we going to get in this novel? But I wouldn't. I'm thinking that maybe we'll still get some little hidden riddles and puzzles in the novel. Regardless,
I'm thinking that we will, and they did mention that it does, it is a journey outside of New York,
Mm-hmm.
showing April, showing the different areas and how that's effective, and they indirectly hinted up to DC.
That's right.
Specifically,
Yeah,
it's
I
going
recall
to,
that.
but it's at least leading up to that timeline where it fills
Mhm.
in the months leading up to the game. Interesting to see if she does take that journey, if she does to Washington, and if she's following, she sees the shade agents leaving. If she's kind of like, you know what, I need to track where they're going, and that's what leads her through this journey, that would be plausible too, because she's still searching for answers.
True, but because my thoughts were like, okay, we know that she was looking for Koopman,
Right.
and we. Sorry, guys, listening. I mean, this is spoilers, but you've had 2 years to read the book now, so I'm going to spoil it. We know that we find the location where Koopman has sort of retreated to, and we have and unlike his house is outside the plain area. The place he retreats to is in the dark zone up by Central Park, and you can go there. And when you go in there, you see that Koopman and April are not there, and there's tons of supplies and stuff in there, but it looks like they've gone. So I always kind of thought like they left somewhere together. They went somewhere together. And so I'm going like, well, I mean, not to say that them following in the trail of some shade agents that might be cool, but I was kind of thinking that they probably left on their own because Koopman is like, okay, this is the next thing. Like he seems to know things. And so I'm thinking like he's gonna be
Three
like,
steps
okay, this is
ahead.
the next thing we got to do, and so they're heading up to Washington D.C. I guess.
Could be.
That
I mean,
could,
at this point, it's
yeah.
all speculation, but that very feasibly
Absolutely,
could be it. Yeah.
absolutely. That just makes more sense to me personally.
What if the sequel to New York's collapse was called like, I don't know, like a Washington D.C. travel guide or something?
Yeah,
Like for all
it's like this
a
tour
big
guide, all
one
the
of the
monuments.
for
And
one of
stuff.
those
We'd buy it.
that stuff for all those tourists and whatnot. I would buy that.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
No, but no, and sticking to Matt, what you were saying earlier, where it's like April being like, oh hey, I lost my New York book. It could very simply just be a
A journal.
like a not like a composition book, like the one that buys for
Yeah.
their kids at the beginning of every school year. It's just it's printed to be what it is, but it could just be quote unquote. That's what it's
Right.
supposed to look like. Is like she just picked this up off the shelf at some random gas station and started jotting notes in it again.
Absolutely.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, I feel the same way. I believe as you do, Matt. Where I liked the idea of it being a living artifact of the game. I liked that connection of
Oh, I'm
not
holding
playing the
something
game.
in my hands that's from
Yeah, I'm
the
not playing
game
the
world.
game.
Yeah.
I'm still
Absolutely.
in it while sitting here at Starbucks waiting for my nominated whatever.
There you
But yeah, and then leading from the comic book, that's when they started talking, or from the novel, that's when they started talking about the comic book.
go.
And they didn't go
Mhm.
as in depth into that. Spoil
Now,
too much information.
I'm in. Yeah, they didn't go very far into this. I'm really interested what kind of form the comic book is going to take, because to me personally, the Division doesn't seem to lend itself to a comic book format really well. I see well, let me put it this way. Like I've gotten X-Files comic books in the past, and like they were okay, but I was like like I see a comic book and I want like superhero stories, or stories with action, and there's certainly going to be like you could have gunfights and things, but I'm going like I feel like in the Division in a Division story you're going to have a lot, just like you were saying, like a lot of detective work, a lot of kind of well, we got to go over here and look for clues and try and figure out what happened, and we need to do that. And I'm going like, I don't know if that story lends itself well to a comic book, so I'm kind of wondering what kind of stories are they going to tell in the comic book.
Well, imagine
Yeah.
from like an artist's perspective of how a comic artist would perceive all the skills working together. They could really do some beautiful like portraits within that comic of each page, and how like say they have a scene of like zooms in on like a agent's face and you can see their contact lenses kind of lighting up, and then you look on the ground
That's
and it
true.
sees them going
No,
into like
and that's-
echo mode or something.
That
Yeah.
touched on one of the things that that we were gonna do in the web series.
Oh
Where it was
really?
gonna be, essentially like a recruit for SHD finale.
The
of
rookie.
the season
The
finale.
rookie.
Yeah, essentially the rookie being welcoming into the family, and it's like, all right, dude, you've gone out with us, you've proven it, and you're not taking no for an answer. You're going with us tonight. And it's like, but we need to be able to keep track of you. So here's your Isaac, here's your watch, and then like everything is getting activated, and it was going to be like with the contact lenses that freaks him out, and he's like, do you ever get used to that? And another guy's like, nope, you never do.
It's
gonna-
always
gonna,
weird.
it's gonna trip you out every time. But then yeah, and then in thinking of potentially pitching the idea that we had
Yeah.
to Dark Horse and being like, hey, here's another side story that you guys can utilize. It was like, yeah, I still very much wanted to put that. That's how they see the holographic thing. It's the only thing that
Yeah.
makes sense. It's not like some dude's walking by and like, oh, dude, that's cool, and then they're like, what is this fool looking at?
Right.
Back away, he's got guns too. But yeah, they all they really mention with the comic book is how it's showing what happened in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
Time span between
Oh,
the
they
two
did
games.
say. Oh,
Yeah, and
maybe I didn't hear that well in the audio or something because I don't remember much of them saying much of anything about the comic book. That's
it was
specific, but
maybe
that
5 minutes of the whole
specifically-
thing.
I'm sorry, what?
It was maybe 5 minutes of that whole panel was them talking
Right.
the comic because they talked more about the novel. Mostly it was the world building.
Yeah.
Then they talked about the art book a little bit.
The lore
More.
book. I find it interesting that they're calling it a lore. We did have a Art of the Division coffee table book where it was
Mhm.
all kind of like the concept art and everything, and explaining a little bit about the world. But they're not calling this one an art book. They're calling it a lore book,
Lore book.
which I find very interesting.
I am 100% down for a lore book.
Absolutely. One of the
Absolutely.
points, I believe it was Julian. Without saying who's talking, sometimes you can't tell with the voices overlapping. But I believe it was Julian saying that they go in depth into some of the things that internally they discussed.
Oh yeah, he talked
Game
about
work.
how
And he talks about how the agents load their go bags.
yeah, but
I
going
was
back
just
to the
like-
world building real quick, I remember
Uh-huh.
he was talking about how they talked to all these different people in and from New York, and how they had this internal book, like their own little like Division Bible, that everybody who was working on Division could kind of go back to for reference.
I want to read that book now.
And I was like, oh man, I want to see that book.
I want to get my
It was,
hands
it
on
was
that.
around that same part of the conversation. And that was just one of the examples of the things that were discussed internally. That they brought into that, where it's like that's the reason why tech is where it is on the pack, and it's like there's a purpose behind it. It's not just there so that you can see it. That's
Yeah,
part of
I
it.
like that too.
I have information about
Um,
Shade Tech though that not a lot of people do. It's from this like leaked. If you look up the Division leaked UI guide and look at this first thing from like VGLeaks.com or something, it's this like style guide, but it's all about how like kind of the shading and whatnot, the Snowdrop like engine works within Division, and it's like from 2013. But they go into talking about what is the operating system, where is the operating system, how does it work, and everything, and it just provides a really good insight onto how, because Isaac, I think the original name for it was called Mistech OS. And
there was another I don't remember what it was, but I remember that it was something else before they came up with the acronym for Isaac.
It's like
Yeah.
Watch Dogs.
yeah, because on here it says
Interesting.
Mistech OS is constantly interacting and gathering information from the environment, giving the appearance of seamless integration with the world. And I think that's another name for Isaac that they called it back beforehand. But yeah, I will definitely send you that link, Splinter.
You can hear him salivating, can't you?
Yeah, he wants it now. There you go, bud. Yeah,
Nice.
I'm gonna have all the.
Well, you know what? That we might have an interesting tangent to kind of go off and talk about here, and
Right.
I don't know if you guys want to go down this, but
Yeah, because that pretty much brought us toward the end of the San Diego thing. So
Uh-huh.
right. But let's talk.
what do you
The point I wanted to bring up was, in that the original 2013 trailer, they showed a really cool watch interface. When they brought up like the skills and everything, there's a really cool interface, and I've heard a lot of players on the Reddit, especially, saying like, well, like when in discussions about like, well, what are your hopes and dreams for Division 2? I've heard a lot of people say like, I just want that user interface that we had into the 2013 trailer. Now, first of all, I want to say personally, I look at that menu and it looks very cool, but it looks like a lot of scrolling to me.
Yeah, it looks like a
I
lot
can
of work to get
see-
through.
Right, and I can see
Yeah,
why they
and-
might have backtracked from that. It's like, yeah, let's do this because, like, with a few clicks, you can kind of navigate a little more easily.
that one, it looks like there would be menus within menus within menus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, and so that's not necessarily a good thing. But I mean, if they could make it look a little bit more like like that other menu. Would you want that, or do you think that what we've got is pretty good?
I think what we have works better, personally. It works
Comfortable with
better
what
for
we
what
have.
it's worth, because say you're trying to do a quick change of like a weapon or something of your build, you don't want to have to scroll through 9 different options on your watch, like all the way
Right.
around your wrist, and then go into weapons, then select it, then have to go back out of everything. I think what we have is a really good
That's true.
feature, but maybe I don't think they'd be selective on that for PC because a UI needs to work on all 3 platforms as a UI. It's not just something they're going to
That's
change for
true.
one platform. Because I think,
Well, I mean,
I think what we have is
I
good.
could see them having different, like slightly different UIs for the different platforms, but
Yeah.
or different for PC and different for console.
Hmm.
Because the Xbox and the PlayStation controllers are pretty similar.
Mhm.
But yeah, I agree.
I think keeping it
Yeah,
similar to Division 1 would be good, but if they want to change it up a little bit and add some new features and make it more seamless and whatnot, make it work better, then yeah, go ahead.
Oh, a feature similar to that from 2013 that I could see working is if, say, it's a cut to your loadouts, where
Ooh.
instead of scrolling through like all the different options, you're just scrolling through like loadout 1, loadout 2, loadout 3,
Ooh.
No.
instead of having to go through the menus and
Ooh, what if
you have a
you could have
hot menu to go
a
through.
quick selection menu for your loadouts, and it's just that menu from
Yeah.
the watch, and you go around the watch, but everything else is the normal menu, but your loadouts is your watch. I would be
Actually,
happy.
that's what I'm saying. Was like if you're very quickly going from the people who love to go into zone, you're already set up for
Mhm.
PVE. You're going through, depending on if the transition room is more seamless and you're just rushing in. Switch my loadout, do it that way instead of having to stop in that room, go through your menu, make the selection, get out of your menu, go back.
Yeah.
It's a possibility in terms of functionality and everything. What we have is good for what we need it to be. So
Yeah. It
it's not
works well.
broken. We don't need to fix it. If there's a way to add that into it that's not taking anything away or overcomplicating, I would more than welcome it.
Sure.
Do we need it? No. Do I
I'll
want
tell
it?
you one
Yeah.
thing that I would like though is that as we is made like how can I say this? Our watch, like when we drop down into the dark zone, right? And it's like, connect. What do they say? I know I have. I know I've heard it so
Connections and
many times
proxies.
and written it down myself. Like proximity connection only. Dark entering dark zone.
Backup
And
access.
they actually show you kind of look at your watch and you like tap a few things on your watch as you get up, as you're, it's like rebooting and stuff. You're actually like tapping a few things on your watch.
Hmm.
I'd like them to add more animations where we like we're doing our skill ability and we like tap the watch somewhere, because I feel like
Yeah, like okay, like for example with
right.
it would be
Exactly.
good if like you just see the animation of the seekers going out and for the first couple of seconds kind of like where you would use like a iOS device. Dave totally knows about this for guiding a Sphero. Where
Yeah,
you
like
see
you use your
like,
finger.
almost like it's a trackpad for
Yeah.
just the first couple of seconds, like go toward this target, and then you leave it at that.
Yeah, something like that would
That
be cool.
would just it would just help sell it a little bit.
Something
Yeah.
they have I saw in Division 2 on demos. They have that, the drone skill now. When you select the
Yes.
drone skill, it actually just flies right off your backpack, like in the air, and it has like this little like
Yeah.
metal track that it flies off of on your backpack. I'm like, that is cool. Like that's something that's
Yes.
really awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of the things I always loved about this game from the very beginning was how it felt very based in our real world. Nothing felt like too far out there technology wise until I saw the healing grenades.
Oof.
Nothing felt too, and I was just like, oh, like this feels so real. This feels like this is something that could really happen. It didn't feel like, magic or technology so far in the future that it felt like magic.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
love all that.
No,
And-
and,
yeah,
and that's
yeah.
like what happened with Splinter Cell. Was Tom Clancy wasn't sold on the first because he was like, it reads in different spectrums. It's like that's not the way the
Mhm.
technology works. And
Yeah.
Yubi was like, just trust us from a video game standpoint. It's easier to do it this way instead of you have to physically have the character change modes. We just have them essentially
Yeah.
change lenses. And then not 10 years later, they actually started to develop multi-spectrum.
Yep.
The technology caught up to the fictional narrative in that sense.
Yeah.
It's so far removed from reality to begin with. And I agree, that's very much how some of with the division, that's how it feels. It's feasible, especially world.
It's not like Left 4 Dead 2 either, where you're just running around like, I got pills here. Hey, take some morphine, bud.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with healing now on the Division 2, you're just replacing an armor pad, and you're not, injecting yourself every 5 seconds with like whatever.
I love
that is.
that.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
much more realistic.
And I love that.
But
And that's
yeah, that makes me think of a question. So when are we gonna get a heavy cosplay from you, Matt?
It's funny you say that. I don't know if you were there. I know I said this on stream one time, but I don't know if you're there. But actually, I was at E3 on the floor in the Hunter outfit, and around the corner come Hamish, Yannick, and Petter,
Oh dear.
and they're like, "Oh, Splinter!" And so we took a picture, and they're like, "Okay, so Splinter, now that you've seen the demo and the trailer and everything, like when they said it to me, they're like, when can we see you? It's not called the tank. They call him the tank.
Yeah.
Like, so when can we expect to see a tank cosplay?" And I was like, "Oh gosh."
You're like, oh, you guys
And
are really gonna do this to me.
see the proper
I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like the agents can wear short sleeves and stuff now. I was kind of hoping to kind of go back to comfort maybe.
It's like, oh, when are you gonna put more padding on, bud?
yeah. See, the proper reaction to that is when you're going to give me the high res photos.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, that request has already gone out. Because I did actually have somebody when I brought it up in my chat one time I was streaming. I mentioned this little episode, and somebody's like, "Well, when the tank once you're shooting at him enough, some of his armor starts flying off. Maybe you could be a tank and be a partially destroyed tank. Have some of your armor has been blown off." And
chipped away,
you got that battle damage, and that can keep you a little cooler that way. And I was like, oh, I kind of like that idea.
Yeah,
Show
that
your
works.
sleeves. Yeah.
I'm not promising anything yet, but I am looking into it.
Got plans.
Yeah, that makes me wonder when are we gonna see a Hamish in the Fei Lao cosplay outfit?
Well,
Soon.
he's probably not. I don't know. I know he's trying to do some weathering. He's trying to do some more weathering on it.
Oh yeah.
Because I've shared a lot of weathering. Like I weathered it up a little bit, but I opted not to do too much weathering for a couple of reasons. Because when I gave it to him, I gave him enough stuff so that he could be like battle damaged Fei Lao, or he could be like healed up Fei Lao.
And he could practice.
And I
on his
actually
own.
I told him, like, look, I think something that would like make a lot of fans like just lose their minds would be if you came out like all like battle damage Fei Lao with your leg wrapped up and everything, and then like you started taking off the bandages and stuff, and you kind of like cocked your gun, put in the holster, and you're like, all right, it's time to get out there and get to work, boys, or something, and everyone would be like, yeah! Like Fei Lao is walking, and I just thought that would be a great moment if he could like film that or something. And so I threw that at him, but I don't know what he said he's got plans. Whatever he wants to do, I want him to run with it. There was one thing that I did not give him, and that was not able to give him the Isaac brick, and I'm working on that now. So he might be waiting for me to get him the Isaac brick.
Possibly.
So I'm Hamish, if you're listening, I hope to have that done over the weekend or next week. So yeah, just letting you know.
So yeah.
Little update.
Oh well, that's awesome. Yeah, I just got my Isaac brick and my watch commissioned, and They shipped them to me 2 days ago, and I just got them, and I can't stop looking at my Isaac brick right now. It's just a work.
Yeah.
It's a work of beauty. Actually, after this podcast episode, I'm taking it over to my friend Alessandro's house. He doesn't have any social medias. I really wish I could plug him, like give him something to plug on here, but I can't. I can't because he doesn't have any Twitter or anything. But he may soon, so I'll look forward to getting that out to you guys. But he's been helping me weather and work on my cosplay outfit, and I really appreciate it.
Say-
Nice.
So
I was gonna say
yeah.
the guy who's helping you with the mask and getting all
Yes,
that.
yeah, he's the one who's helped me learn how to weather things and weather my gun, and he's gonna help me weather all of the outfit stuff tonight. And I'm ordering my armband tonight along with the ID badge, and then my cosplay is basically done. So look forward to that
Excellent.
soon,
Nice.
guys. It's gonna be very
Give us
nice.
finished photos, man.
All right.
Absolutely. Guess who's joining the cosplay community? Finally! Woo!
One of us. One of us.
I'm so happy.
Always room for new rookies. So,
Absolutely. Oh,
Somewhere.
jinx. But I think we're finally good to move on from the San Diego Comic-Con panel now, guys. Do you think?
Yeah.
To say the least.
All right. Well,
We beat that to death.
yeah, we beat that one to death with a stick. But we recently have joined the Bullets and Beer Discord server, which is the one made by the people who do Bombshell Jackets, another fellow Division podcast who's been in the game for years now. And they're super loyal and super consistently friendly with everybody in the community. And they gave us our own little section and our own little roles on the server, and it's awesome because they give us announcements whenever we go live on episodes or whenever we post any. But they also gave us a section on there for questions. And our fan question for the week that we had was from well-known community member and star player Bond Diesel. And he wanted to know, what do we think is the quote-unquote big twist that may be in the Division 2 story that Julian has hinted to in interviews? So what do you guys think?
I
is
have a
the
couple
big
thoughts on
twist?
this, but I want you guys to lead off on this, and I'll finish it.
Well, with the big twist, he noted that, if I remember correctly, it was after we reached max level and beat all the story missions, and it's basically the big twist that keeps us coming back for endgame. Because I know there's going to be control points and helping out settlements and whatnot, but I'm not really sure what else could draw us back into the endgame after we beat the main storyline, other than possibly rebuilding things. Or it could be something that leads into the raids in general. But I'd like to. That's more or less my thoughts of what could be drawing us in. A big twist. A big twist that could be a thing is, hey, Aaron Keener is here and he's helping us. Woo! No, honestly, I don't know. I've been thinking about this question for all week, and I really don't know what could be a giant twist other than just pure speculation of goofy topics. So. Dave, do you think, is there anything coming? I don't know. I don't know if Dave has any thoughts about that, or...
I've got a pretty wild theories. It sort of makes me hark and think of Fallout, where was it Fallout 2? We had the choice to use the nuke or not.
You could do that.
Oh yeah.
You could do something like that in Fallout 4 also.
Yes. So of course not one big nuke, because that would just destroy the whole map for the rest of the game. But maybe mini dirty bombs around Washington DC that could be linked to landmarks or settlements, and maybe you're given a choice to use in some capacity that can affect the rest of the map in endgame, whether it's areas of high radiation or so forth.
That would bring out good focus on bringing respirators back, other than the toxic air that we discussed last episode.
That's an interesting idea. That's an interesting idea, just because I think back to the story trailer where they say, remnants of a corrupt state ready to wage, civil war on the rest of the country, kind of a thing.
Yeah, and in the cinematic trailer, when the big word, I think is it survive or something, comes up in black and white, you'll see one of the letters has a nuclear or ICBM in the background.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's
Yeah,
definitely a good idea. Yeah, with a nuclear ending. I know that factions have taken like military weapons, such as like big miniguns that you see on the bottom of airplanes, and using them against civilians and division agents. But them building a dirty bomb. What if it's not them building a dirty bomb, but it's us building a dirty bomb, kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a very good twist. But yeah, man, it gets your brain working.
All right. Well, did anybody else want to throw something else in? Because I want to start throwing a few ideas in.
I think Keelan can throw a good idea in. I think he's
Yeah, something,
yeah.
and it was something that before when we were kind of speculating about things, and the whole twist being starting to see things from Keener's perspective a little bit clearly.
Yes.
Yeah, that I think that I don't know if that's what it's going to lead up to. My instinct as a storyteller tells me that that would be the way to go. It as the second act in a third act story structure.
Yeah.
Just because it's like situations where this is the villain, this is the villain's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I understand it. I don't agree with it. I don't believe it's the necessary course of action. But I get where they're coming from, and you leave it at that. And then as time progresses, and certain things get worse, and other things don't get better, and then all of a sudden it's like, God, you know what?
Maybe we need to rethink this.
Yeah, maybe we need to rethink our approach. And you're a bit on the extreme side, but offense.
Yeah.
I think that's possibility, or a likelihood of where it can go, is that toward the end, directly siding with Keener, because they've not confirmed nor denied if there's going to be any involvement of the character.
Mm-hmm.
If not directly siding with him, the first wave rogues that ended up coming about, then essentially like almost becoming the new Keener.
Oh.
Just if it's just kind of like,
Yeah, at least like
at that
if not
point.
joining him, at least adopt kind of or his world view or something.
He passes
Yeah.
on to you the map of the virus or something like that.
Well, okay. So what I wanted to say, Keelan goes about very closely with what you were talking about. In storytelling, if we look at the Division as like maybe this is going to be a trilogy again, there's going to be another is 3 after Division 2. In this act, this is when we kind of have the crisis of ideology. The ideology gets tested. Whatever the hero of the story has thought or is trying to adopt, this is where it gets tested. And just from the way at the end of the game, in that extended echo sequence we have with Keener, from the way he was wording things and the way that worked, from the first time I played the game, I had the feeling that at some point we would be given some kind of choice to join with, like we would be given a choice, like ally with Keener or stay loyal to the Division. Second point, in the artwork and stuff, videos we've seen so far, Washington Monument has that word unity on it, and it really struck me looking at that huge monument, that what do they call that? Oh, the word is totally blanking out of my head, but that monument, unity on it, and we are part of the Division, unity and division, and
The juxtaposition there.
the juxtaposition of those words, I was just going like, there's gonna be some kind of theme in this game that is going to address this. So is it going to be that and some of these issues are brought up in Division 1 where they're talking about, like, Rhodes himself says to our face, he's like, look, you guys, you are totally blowing apart the Constitution. The fact that you guys get all these emergency powers, this breaks everything. And so it's like, hey, we're here to pull civilization back from the brink of total chaos. We are a good thing, but are we? I feel like is the thing that it keeps getting kind of shoved in our face. Like, well, are you a force for good? There's audio logs where they in Division 1 it talks about how hey, what are the bad guys doing? They're killing people and taking loot. What are we doing? We're killing people and taking loot. And so there's all these questions that are put to us, kind of really making us think about the ideology and what's behind what we're doing. Are we a force for good ultimately or not? And with all the rogues and with what Keener has done and everything, like, there's some serious questions here, and I feel like these themes will get explored in the game. As part of the hunter theory, I put this in the hunter theory that I feel like we're going to be given this choice, and that the hunters have been given orders to just take out all agents. And so I even thought, like, what if it's not just a choice? It's not just a choice in two directions. What if it's more than two directions? What if it's like stay loyal to Division, join Keener, or there's even a third choice? And I had the thought, like, what if the hunters are like, okay, well, you were a Division agent, but we like the way you do things. And it looks like you don't want to be a Division agent anymore, so you can join us or something.
Yeah, here's your application.
Yeah, you can apply for the Hunter Division. I don't know. That's I gotta admit, that's wild speculation. But just as far as, like, what could that big twist be, I think whatever that big twist is, it's going to be something along these lines, exploring this theme of, are we a force for, as part of the Division, are we a force for good, or are we not? Are we part of something good or not? And us making a choice.
Yeah, that's definitely something to think about.
Mic drop if it wasn't on your head.
Yeah, my headset almost fell off. Holy crap.
Sorry, everyone was being quiet there, so I was like,
Oh, no.
silence.
I'm just, like, kind of shock and awe right now. I was so just interested that I'm like, when it finished, I'm like, wait.
I think that it would blow the minds of a lot of players. Like, a lot of players would be like, oh my gosh, this is really making me think. And they could build it up to be a very poignant moment. When you think that, I mean, like, what are some other, when you think back about other great games, there's moments in those games you're like, oh my gosh, that blew my mind. Like, the first one that pops in my head, BioShock
Infinite?
No, the first BioShock.
Okay. I was thinking Infinite.
BioShock Infinite definitely had that moment as well.
The moment with the pinky finger.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the pinky. Well, all of that whole sequence. But going back to Andrew Ryan, when he is talking to you and he says, "Would you kindly?" and suddenly you realize, like, oh my gosh, I've been a pawn. I thought I was the whole time. I've been a pawn this whole time. They could build this into an epic moment like that, I think, where all the players would be like, "Oh my gosh, I have a big decision to make. What am I gonna do?"
It's like, are you either in or out?
Yeah.
Oh man, that makes me think. It's like, what if there's like an ending to your own character's story, and then they kind of do that thing where they just drop you back into the game like before you make that decision, and then you can just keep playing your raids and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, like you go back and like, okay, now knowing what you know now, like what decisions do you make now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like, I don't know, I'm just gonna go to the U.S. Mint and burn all the toxic money by.
There you go.
Yeah, that was a mission idea I was thinking of too. Like, what if you go to the United States Mint and maybe that's where all the poisoned money was manufactured? Who knows?
No, I'm gonna shoot that down right now.
Yeah, I had a feeling there was something different to it.
No, because we actually see in that opening cinematic to the Division game,
Him dropping it on
Amherst.
the
He's got the eyedropper. He's
putting it on
literally
there.
like putting the drops of the virus on the bills right there.
How did he spread that? Did he just walk up to random people like, "Hey man, you want $20?"
No, he went to Abel's. He went to which is basically Macy's.
Yes.
And
Yes,
he
yes.
I mean,
in the tip
Macy's
jars.
is literally the biggest store in the world, even
Yes.
now.
Yeah,
And he goes to the biggest store on their busiest day in New York and starts spreading these bills.
yeah. I completely remember that mission. Yeah, that creepy dude.
Oh yeah,
He always gets me every time.
I mean, you gotta give him props
Just
for
his ending cutscene where he's just like, it's like, well, with all that, have fun. Welcome to hell.
yeah. He doesn't even care if he
Yeah, he does not
survives,
care whatsoever.
But I think this is the right thing to do, and you're just like, damn, dude.
Yeah, the cutscenes where they explain the virus and how it all works and what Amherst did in Division 1 was always the things that kind of like impacted me. Those were like the real emotional impacts. But aside from, the audio logs and hearing people dying and the 2014 cinematic trailer also.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those were major ones that impacted, but I feel with Division 2 they can definitely provide a greater impact with actual choices this time.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, but there you go, Bond Diesel. That's our insight on the big twist in a way, shape, or form. But do you guys want to move on to the last segment now? Then we can wrap it up here. Number 6, we had the thing that recently happened with Wildlands. They recently included a new event for Rainbow Six Siege, and previously they did Splinter Cell, and previously Predator. But do we think that there'll ever be a Division special event? Because there's still 2 more that they have to do for year 2.
Yeah, we actually were talking all about this while you were offline.
I was messaging you guys. I'm so sorry.
No, I know. Oh, all right. Yeah, I gotta wrap this up, guys.
Yeah. Let's. Do you guys think that there would be one? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we absolutely do. We were saying like I was saying like, well, I don't know if this could happen because if the world of the Division touches on the world of
Bolivia,
Ghost Recon,
yeah.
Bolivia, are they going to have to change some things up for the episode and show like all the hundreds of villagers dying or something? But what we as we discussed it, they're like, well, maybe probably what would happen is they just have some Division agents in Bolivia field testing Isaac or like maybe there is some kind of disease outbreak. It's not the green poison, but just some kind of infectious
something
disease.
the cartel was working on.
And
maybe.
they're just kind of studying it like, hey, we have training in this kind of scenario. We want to come down and support you guys and kind of train up for something like this, ever happening possibly in the US.
So it'd be like a prequel to the Division in a sense.
Essentially, yeah.
Maybe something like that could be really cool.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Something that I had mentioned very similar along those lines was that you learn that there's research going on into, viruses and how you're tasked with either finding the researcher or finding the sample or whatever task it is that you're supposed to try to locate something.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yes.
hey, it's not there. and it's like, okay, yeah, we sent our guys in to once, once it was located, thank you for the distraction. The cartel came after you instead of us, type deal.
Yes.
But that, or
But then the
whomever you're
research,
communicating with, you never encounter the person. They're just a voice over the radio, and you find out it was Amherst the whole time, or it was Keener the whole time. It was something that led up
from
to
the Division lore, yeah.
you helped them get their hands on something that they needed to make that situation happen.
And you're like, no.
Yeah, and then it would just be like just timeline, but then also, it's a way of bringing the worlds together without having to in your face. Here's Cavera.
Yes.
It doesn't. You don't have to show the person.
I like the
Just
way that they
implying
structured. I like the way that they structured Rainbow Six Sieges, though. It was just so fun and so awesome if you know all the characters so well.
Yeah. Well, and that was the same thing with the 2, is the fact that he's like, yeah, I need you to meet me here. By the way, don't alarm anybody that you're here.
Yeah.
It's the dude. He's all about stealth, so it's like sneak in and see me.
Yeah.
The main
you were
guy.
you were able to pull this off. You didn't have to shoot your way in, and how it's fitting
The character.
that it's referencing
To all
and the
those
character.
different
Yeah.
universes. Yeah, I completely agree.
Absolutely.
But yeah, definitely. I think we'll maybe see some Division get poured into Wildlands here soon. Who knows? But yeah, I'd say that finishes up this episode, guys. What do you think?
One other
we're good.
point. One other
Okay,
point. If
okay.
they do that towards the end of the year,
Mm-hmm.
could also start generating some hype for Division.
Yes, I would agree.
And then Division 2 is coming out in a few months.
I would agree.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yes, it does.
Mhm.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting. I'm sick of waiting.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, but for sure. But guys, thank you again for joining me. And next week might be a different type of format for the podcast. I'm gonna see if I can do maybe different guest hosts or maybe something completely different. We're gonna figure it out. But yeah, thank you guys for anybody who's listening in, or that watched the stream, the first half of it or so before my internet kicked my ass. But yeah, thank you guys for all joining in today. And we'll see you guys soon. It's been a fun episode. It's been full of a lot of good talks about Division 2 and a lot of good things, and also commemorating Stefania, one of the greatest community members ever. So, but yeah, we will see you guys in the next podcast, and hope you guys have a good evening, good afternoon, good night, good morning, wherever you may be in the world, and keep on rocking on with your new characters. Don't be a striker meta, and have a good night. All right, bye guys.
Hunter signing off.
Everybody.